and after that hearty lunch, we're going to give you some serious dose of finance today, and not just UAE-focused financial dose, but probably all across Southeast Asia, because we have a diverse panel. I mean, some of us understand India, and then there is Pakistan, and then there is Nathan comes from a British UAE background now. So therefore, it's going to be pretty diverse in terms of what we give you in terms of financial market trends. Now, when I got this topic, first of all, the first thing I decided to look out was, and I feel to understand the trends or any kind of financial market inside of a market is to see what is the financial inclusion in that market. And I mean, strange as it may sound, about 70% of the entire population, and particularly the working class population, is actually not inclusive in the financial services in the UAE market. Now that makes a big chunk. There is a huge working class population here which is not part of the financial markets. Now those, while you can always draw trends from anything, but that makes the data as much smaller, and therefore I think one thing that UAE would need to sort of get going very quickly is to bring more financial inclusion in the market, and therefore have everybody, whether it's somebody on the top or whether it's the small working class or even the lowest paid class of the working population, they all need to come under the ambit of the financial markets to be able to draw big results. So given that, let me start a discussion over here. And it's not a problem which is as big as probably it looks when you look at the numbers. It's a problem it's just a matter of developing products or having your technologies in place for better inclusion to happen. So, but having said that, I'm going to start right now with Mr. Chandru. Mr. Chandru has a big macro experience of understanding how economies function. Not from just a financial perspective, but also from a socio and economic outlook to have more financial inclusion happening in the market. So given that, Mr. Chandru, how do you see better financial inclusion happening over here, and what is it that culturally needs to change in the fabric of the society for that inclusion to happen?
Because I come from India, so I can probably actually talk about
India is a big problem.
Absolutely, and how probably things are shaping up in India, and there are definitely takeaways from what's happening in UAE to countries like India and vice versa. It's an osmosis process. So one of the things, the issue about financial inclusion is definitely very high on the agenda of many countries. And why? Because from an economic perspective, it oils the economy very well. But the point is, how do you actually do that? And what are the methods, which actually would do it? For example, what probably could be done in US is not the exact way, it will be done in India or Africa. In India and Africa, it's more of the mobile, which has actually then been a main source of actually doing fintech. And when it comes to actually financial inclusion, you're talking about the lower, rungs of the pyramid. And the more you can cater, and what happens is in an economic pyramid, there are more numbers there. But what it requires is not technology. In the background has to be very good, but in the foreground it has to be extremely simple for things to work. And that's when people actually start taking off. And here I can give the example of Unified Payment Systems in India, which has been a huge success in actually in the payment systems. And the secret there has been the simplicity and the time taken for even people who are not actually, who have a very basic education to actually then transfer money, which is a very, very important thing. And the ease with which it can be transferred with the instruments what is accessible, I think plays a very critical role. Even in a country which is as diverse as India, and I think UAE is also very extremely diverse, which is almost like a mini reflection of what India is, because you have several more nationalities here. What fintech companies have to be focusing on is the simplicity part.
Right.
I think if that's got right, then you get a lot of things, culturally also. It doesn't matter which culture and all this.
Sure. Abhishek, let me ask you this. One part of financial inclusion is also to do away with the cash, and that is where he mentioned UPI as well, is to do away with the cash in the system and actually bring all currency in a digital format. So all transactions have to happen digitally, and pretty much, you want people to be holding as less cash as possible. Now, given that context, what is the current situation in UAE? And how do you think the government is working towards, so this is one thing, to have less cash, and second is to have your money within the country, right? And then, of course, there's been such a huge expatriate population that comes to UAE market just for working. But even if the remittances are small, but they still tend to go out of the country. So now, both these problems, one is to do away with cash, and secondly is to, I don't know how that will happen, that remittance money should actually stay in the economy. Now, how do you, that is the only way to get better financial control of your market.
That's absolutely right. I think, first of all, what Mr. Chandru mentioned was one of the most critical points, that a fintech company has to have a solution to a problem. Like in India, as he mentioned, one of the major solutions out of UPI was the time it reduced for the settlement of the payments.
Correct.
Similarly, if you look at UAE and the segment which you are talking about, majority of them are people who are earning less than 4,000 or 3,000 dirham. Now, why the financial inclusion traditionally was not happening? Because a lot of banks were not opening a corporate account or an individual account whose salaries are less than 3,000 or 4,000. So these population used to get their salary through WPS card. It's a wage protection system which is launched by the government, which is one of the best initiatives to ensure that the payments to all the laborers and all the people who are in the working class goes on time. So these cards were introduced earlier, but as you mentioned that the cash is something was still going on. So last year, Central Bank of UAE came up with a regulation that any disbursement of the payment from any financial institution should only go through a card mechanism. There should not be any cash payout. So this helped a lot in bringing all these people on the platform. Now, having said that, again, this was a major problem and a lot of fintech companies focused on this. One of the good examples in UAE, and in fact supported by one of the major Abu Dhabi global markets regular program, was Now Money. Now Money was a concept only focusing on serving this segment of the customer, not on their salary, but to help them maintain the funds in a card instead of cash. Now, as long as that is being done, two things were very important to implement. One is the transaction cost. So today, if I have a card of any of the banks and I go to another bank ATM, I have to pay a transaction cost of 2 dirham. Now, if for these people 2 dirham becomes very important amount, and and obviously all the ATMs are not nearby. So this is something which still the problem persists, and they are working on it. And there are a lot of solutions. In fact, we have been advising one company which has come out with a virtual ATM concept where they want the merchants, based on the QR code, I think Adnan also has worked on that. So based on the QR code, payout is happening, so which reduces the cost of the transaction drastically. So that's something which can be focused on, and I see the government supporting the initiative in a bigger way. They are coming out with the regulations that is required to maintain the decorum of the entire financial system, at the same time serving the population which was earlier not served. So that's something which is very important.
Sure.
I'd also like to add a few points over that. Since fintech has to understand customer psyche and they want to disrupt something which has been happening around, and traditional banking has not been able to resolve those problems. So all those segments of a society, like 25 million plus people in UAE at the moment, are not having bank accounts. So we have to understand, and we have to understand their psyche. They don't, their family are living abroad. They have to send money outside their to their country, outside UAE. They don't want to keep their money in banks. What they fear? They fear if they, God forbid, die down, what is going to happen with their money? Because banks are not going to return. So fintech or banks will have to work together, and they have to do something related to insurance which allow these people to retain their money, and then maybe their money is sent out to their own end, one thing, and then you cannot expect them to download any mobile app and then perform banking, because they are not, majority of them are not literate people, right? They have no reservation.
And neither is there a global unified payment system.
No, just to add, very important point you mentioned, especially the labor class, to reduce their transaction cost of remittance. Generally, it will range from 15 to 25 or 30 dirham, depending on the market. So what they do is, because the amounts are small, they all club it together. So somebody coming from one place in India, these 9-10 people will club all the payments together and send one transaction to one person.
Yes.
So it gets distributed. This is something they are currently, and there's a bigger opportunity for the players who can come out with a solution for these segments and reduce their transaction cost. It will help them include in the financial system very well, as well as have more transparency in terms of financial transaction across the jurisdiction. So there's a bigger opportunity that lies there.
Absolutely. Then you have to understand the psyche and the problem of that. Then they cannot download mobile apps and perform all these digital transactions. So agent-based banking maybe is far easier for them. So they get physically in contact with some of a person who can guide them, help them, and then multilingual mobile apps may be the solution through which they can use banking in Filipino and in Hindi and Urdu. This is where they get more confidence and they get more convenience to the average.
Yeah,
These
I'm
are
coming to one
practices.
next. So Nathan, let me first ask you this. You're building a fintech startup which is Filpera, and you've been in UAE for a significant time to now understand what are the real challenges that are today happening or in the financial markets which can be addressed through a fintech startup. Of course, the deficiency of a banking system being fulfilled at your end. So where do you see the gaps where fintechs can come in, make a difference? So what are the trends that you have seen, where there were gaps or where there were something that was not being reactively done upon by the banking system where fintech can come and take over?
Yeah. Okay, so it leads on from what he was saying there, where he's saying that there's a lack of education. The banks, unfortunately, rely on a lack of naivety from the clients. That's the reality. They take advantage of that naivety. And as you're pointing out, trying to get someone to adopt a system where they just got used to a certain way of thinking, they don't trust the banks, so how on earth are they going to suddenly trust an app on their phone? So the banks have this big branding procedure where, okay, we trust the bank, and the bank's going to facilitate getting the money to our bank account. We don't trust them any more than that because of the way they're not transparent beyond that with charges and so on and so forth. Obviously there's lots talked about how fintech can potentially make financial services a lot more economical and accessible to people that don't necessarily have it right now. But actually the way that I see the biggest opportunity is it gives us the ability, combining where we can through social media, because let's be honest, these people that are financially illiterate, that don't understand finance, still have a Facebook account, right? Or they still have access to social media. There's still ways that you can combine a financial technology company along with social media to be able to educate this demographic and relate to them. I think the biggest issue that banks have is they are not relatable to people. Banks do not relate to people. And I think that the opportunity lies in transparency. Because at the end of the day, fintech gives us the ability to make things far more economical. Okay, great. But it also gives us the ability to be 100 times more transparent than the bank has ever been. Now, if you can articulate that to the market through social media, because that's what they believe in, that's what they see, then that is a humongous opportunity. I think the problem that people are having so far is that, there's lots of innovative ideas. There's lots of things that potentially can make things more economical and more accessible to people that don't have access to it right now. But the way it needs to be marketed is it's relatable. This is 21st century banking. This is a different way of looking at things, and the combination of financial technology and social media together are a massive storm to be able to create something far, far, far bigger than what we have right now in regards to financial inclusion.
Correct. So you come from Pakistan, Adnan, and it's also a market where financial inclusion is something that the government is striving to achieve. So, while our countries are similar, but of course, India being a far more massive, our problems are so many times multiply higher. So, when a country like Pakistan goes about financial inclusion, what is it as the first thing that you want to fix in the system to get more sort of customers coming into the ambit of digital financing?
I think in the last 2-3 years, our regulator has started to realize what is required by fintechs, or what is required by fintechs, or maybe conventional banks cannot resolve these problems. In Pakistan, we have around 14,000 bank branches, which are, this number is very meager to serve a population over 200 million. So naturally, they were only performing, or maybe they were only opening branches which are more business cluttered areas, Karachi or Islamabad, top tier cities. So far from areas or village areas were not having banking facilities. So what they did, they issued national banking license, through which Pakistan has now 50 million wallet accounts. So the wallet or digital accounts are more than the conventional banking accounts. We have around 40 million bank accounts versus 50 million digital banking accounts only within 6-7 years. Now what they are doing, now they are issuing EMI license to the fintech companies, through which they can innovate and they can provide services to the customers, or low hanging or low bottom of a pyramid of customer base, through which they can really provide services which is required by the end users. And again, they have come up with MTGS, which is a very much same concept of like UPI, through which they will connect all the banking entities and the financial institutes, and then they will expose APIs to the relevant companies like us who are working on the financial products, and then they can only consume those APIs and provide services to the end user in the market and to the masses. And I'm sure with these sort of initiatives, this market is going to be changed. Right now we are 98% cash level economy, right? So it's a big number. So we have to be disruptive, and the regulator has to support. So this has really started in the last year, especially the current government under the regime of Imran Khan. They also introduced digital Pakistan narrative. So these sort of things are happening in Pakistan into the right directions. And what I strongly believe, coming back from a banking background as well as a fintech background, so I think the next 5 years will be a very change in Pakistan, and we will see a lot of companies coming up, and people will have innovative solutions to bank on what they have not been based on banking.
Sure.
So it's a big change.
Just to add one more point, see, fintech is, you should consider that like we need oxygen to live, fintech companies need that environment. If you come to UAE, starting from the regulatory requirement till the investor funding, seed funding, Series A, B, C, there is a lot of clarity. If you go to India, and we have been advising a lot of firms in India who are coming here, and we are seeing what are the challenges they are facing. One of the major challenges you will always see here in India or other places compared to UAE is the clarity on the regulation. So if I want to start a fintech company tomorrow, they are laying the red carpet for you. They want you to go global from here. So that's a mindset which they have created, and that helps a lot of fintech company. I think you would agree with me on that, since you are
100%. Everyone wants in. We are in the most global city in the world. Let's be honest, right? How many nationalities are here? Does the UAE just look at it from a UAE standpoint? Does it just look at serving Dubai, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, the Emirates? No, it's beyond that, right? You have to. And the opportunity to be able to create this as a hub, financial hub, with the dynamic that we actually have here, a very unique dynamic, I may add. I think that the one thing that I've learned since being here is, by living in the UAE, you have access to so many more different thought processes and cultures. Everyone's got a different way of thinking, right? And because you become cultured to that, you can see the world in a far more global type vision, right? That's what you're trying to build here. So,
coming to the payment side, there is a company called Express Money, which is headquartered in UAE. They are present today in 130 countries and more. So that's an example that even if the product and the mindset is right, you can go global.
yeah,
No,
definitely.
but I really feel that comes from a very different mindset, because the market itself is so small that you have to start thinking global from day one. But come to think of it, more fintech companies from India have gone abroad than I would feel UAE have gone overseas. That is because the market that was addressed by them within India was so large that they were confident enough to crack a market outside India.
I think the point is right, but still we have to be, once you develop some technology, then you should have a perspective of being global. This is about mindset in India.
Okay, no, this is not about fintechs going global. We're not talking about
You can give that mindset.
Let me just try to coalesce all these thoughts, and I'll try to bring in a different perspective to what's happening. See, from whatever I've seen across the globe, there are certain advantages, with city-states like Dubai, Singapore, or Hong Kong actually bring. Now, fundamental to that is removing friction. Business does not want friction, and I think markets like this thrive if you have a good system in saying that they all actually thrive on removing the frictions, and that's great for startups, great for a lot of companies which operate in such city-states. At the same time, there is a flip side to that, is when you actually take, and your point of saying that, companies from India being more global than, from here. When you have it much easier in systems like this to start off and then do innovation and everything, very often there are these pitfalls, which are not envisaged when the system is getting created for markets like, say, probably China or, India. And for these, if you see, look at China, Google can't do business there, Amazon can't do business there. There is a lot of nationalism, and these larger aspects of governance, privacy of data, all these things get missed out, and the nuances what we have. Now, when we were discussing in the pre-session, I came to know that there's a lot of data available currently in Dubai, which fintechs can easily use to actually provide solutions. And what happens most often in most markets is technology is much ahead of regulations and data privacy and everything. When you are actually developing a solution, you are not looking at these issues of data privacy problems coming up at a later stage. And today, that's one of the fundamental things which a lot of tech companies are struggling with. That is, you can call it as the nationalism of data. For example, when you want to come to countries like India and do business, or even in China, countries do not want their citizens' data to be actually going out of their shores. So this is not something which a lot of tech companies actually bargain for. And again, coming to issues like taxation, which is a different subject, but these are also actually affect the profitability of fintechs. So when you're talking about going global, it is not just about solving the pain points and the availability of data. You have to look at it from a perspective even when you're building solutions. If you want to go global, what do you do? So that's probably one of the reasons that companies in India, probably will have more failures in India of fintechs than this one. But the ones which are successful, it is like vaccination. They become even more stronger to actually come out and then solve issues across the world.
Sure. Let me come to another point, which is the reverse of what we discussed earlier, which is one is to bring, of course, more financial inclusion. Now let's talk about people who are already inclusive in that ecosystem, right? They're already taking fintech services. But the point is, what is it within all these markets that we are talking about, where fintech has been able to make a big dent? And given that, how do we maximize that space and be able to add further fintech or further financial services to them who are already, I would say, digital natives of fintech?
I think if I take example from UK, one of the markets which has promoted fintech globally big time, one of the things which has come out after fintech is the regulatory tech. So that is a follow-up which is very important, as Chandru was mentioning. The technology is growing very fast, but how is the regulation growing? And with regulation, do you have the technology? So if I tell you one thing, that if a bank here does a transaction, they have 100,000 customers, and each customer does one transaction. It's manually impossible to track which transaction is right, which transaction is wrong. There's a huge risk, compliance risk that comes into the picture. As he was saying, there is a lot of potential about mis-selling. So how that mis-selling can be tapped from the regulatory and from the regulation tech is something which we can elaborate and work upon. This is something which is everywhere. This is something which is still growing. And one of the examples in Abu Dhabi, I think Abu Dhabi Global Market has come out with a RegLab. So they say you develop the regulatory sandbox compliance, but do it on a pilot phase in a very controlled environment. So it doesn't boomerang. So they see what are the pitfalls and then they allow you to graduate. So once you graduate, you have a recognition that you have already tried the thing and it is working. So a lot of local banks and the regional bank looks up to that to see how we can improve our regulatory tech when we are tying up with the fintech.
Sure. So, in case of Pakistan, so whatever part of the country or part of the population which is already digitally inclusive, what services are they using from fintech? And therefore, more can be done about it.
I think at the moment, it is more of mobile payments. In Pakistan, we have seen enough solutions coming to the market, especially in partnership with China. We have the biggest digital player was EasyPaisa, 10 years brand, which was acquired by Alibaba, and now they have also acquired the biggest e-commerce company of Pakistan, which is Daraz. So these Chinese, we have all seen what China has done for mobile payments. So we are also partnering with UPI, which is Union Pay International, and we are enabling banks to accept QR and NFC or HCE based payments. And we issue virtual cards, not a physical card. It's a virtual card generated through using account number of a customer. So I think in Pakistan, mobile payment is something which is on a huge thing.
What's the trend you see in UAE?
I think, well, let's look at it from an investment perspective. 46% of investment into fintechs in the region has gone into the payments and money transfer space in the last.
Just remittances.
Remittance, yeah. So why? Well, simply because the majority of people do it. Well, if you can create a financial technology platform that facilitates that and then educates to be able to facilitate other financial services, I mean, that's where the opportunity lies in my book. It's like, okay, we know you transfer money. Okay, we're going to be so transparent with you that this is how it works with the banks, this is how much you've been paying, and this is the way it is now, that now we've gained that level of trust from the client, that they're like, well actually, why would I ever listen to the bank again? Because the bank's not been lying to me, but the bank is hidden the truth from me. But now you've got the ability to come along and say, well actually, this is what's been happening, this is the way it is, this is what you have access to. Oh, and by the way, now you've done your money transfer, and actually you now have the ability to have credit. Perhaps we can look at going down that direction. Or actually, oh, you've got a car, so we can do your car rental. The money goes into the fintech, into the payment space, because that's what everyone does, but that's not the golden ticket. The golden ticket is that you can be that transparency, that you take the trust away from the banks to the fintechs. And then you can aggregate the other financial services beyond that.
But do you think that is also one of the reasons, because as you say 46% of the entire financial model is about remittances, then do you think that is one of the reasons why fintechs are wanting to go global, so that your point of trying to reduce the friction for businesses, if they are sitting in both the markets, one where the remittance is originating from and one where it is going to, you're able to address both the markets, you have a ready-made customer base sitting.
So sending receiving side becomes
you control both sides then.
That's a wonderful thing, because only UAE is $100 billion plus this market.
So, but I'm saying, is there a trend? Is this something that is already happening in this market?
Well, I'm trying to do it.
What I was reading last night as well, UPI is also coming to UAE, and only that with that vision, those people who are working here can send money to United. So it will be a business transaction, local transaction in that.
So RuPay has done a tie-up
And
with
also been introduced to UAE market.
RuPay has done a tie-up with Mercury System, which owns Network International. They are the people who are with Visa and Mastercard. So similarly, RuPay has done.
But do you think this might work for both countries better?
Why not? I mean, if you can have it within a nation and if two monetary authorities agree for it, I don't see a reason that why it will not work. But it could be a risk for many of the fintechs which are actually basing their business model on remittances.
Yeah, but
Okay, but that's it. But
benefit for the customer, they will have cheaper services.
Yeah. They'll have access, but in that instance as well, you're utilising their data more efficiently. We talked about this earlier. When you log into your banking app, if I log into my banking app, you log into your banking app. It's exactly the same. That's ridiculous. When you think about that, if my 16-year-old son logs into his banking app and I log into my banking app, it's exactly the same. How ridiculous is that? You're offering exactly the same to the worldwide market, but every person has different needs, and fintech gives us the ability to offer that, assess each individual through the data, and provide them with the most economical service based on their circumstances. And with an innovative place like Dubai, where they're opening up the opportunities to do it, is the prime place in the world to be able to create something like that.
so what is the second most used financial product over here?
Credit cards. credit cards, the worst thing ever.
So, and where does the mobile wallets are not as omnipresent?
Mobile wallet are not there. They have just started e-wallet. It was launched last year, but mobile payment will grow in this month.
Yeah.
Given the regulatory landscape which has changed now, it will grow. But only one product is right now there which supports the entire.
I think plastic will, fade
Slowly go,
out.
yeah.
Slowly go, gradually go. QR-based payments on mobile terms are more of a sort of market in which POS terminals are not already available. In Dubai, you go everywhere, you find POS terminals. So down the road, I think the millennials, as they grow, so they are going to.
I was reading this study
go
on the
to
moment.
this,
Yeah.
So there are so many frictions with credit card as well. You have to take out your wallet and then take out the credit card and then give it to someone who just tap in and pay. So these are a lot of frictions. People will just scan or
And
tap
that's-
and go.
I'm going to give them the
We run
example.
out of food pantry also, right? So
I'm going to give them the
that's
example
another problem altogether.
of what they were talking about, credit cards. So, and I think how I linked it to social media. As everyone understand what TikTok is. It's an app where people loads of dance on it, right? Loads of dance. I sent out a TikTok 3 days ago saying, do you need help with credit cards? If so, contact me. It's been viewed 107,000 times in 2 days. I've had 4,000 people follow me because someone's got that one need. So if that's not showing how the change is innovation, how financial companies have to innovate to be able to attract their audience, I don't know what does.
Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to come to one of the most critical pieces, which is data. You just mentioned it briefly. The data is where particularly the red tech that you keep mentioning, it's really all about the data, and therefore being able to secure the data of financial transactions or the financial history of a person within the country. Now, how to make sure, it's not as if we can stop globalization in the world. So if Indian today, if a fintech which is based over here understands that there is a remittance market, should be present in India, he already has access to that data, right? About the financial. So if the financial payment is going from here to there, he already knows what is going inside India. So my point is now, how do you make sure that in a globalized world your data is centralized and protected and secured? And then how about fintechs like them? And, if they don't have data, they don't know how to solve problems. So where does the balance come?
So, okay, I don't have straight answers to that, and probably the governments have to answer, but probably the point is, that's what I actually alluded to that in my first response, initial response, is that one thing is to see in an idealistic world, you work with a lot of data, but the world is not, it's not utopian. In most places, either you don't get data, or you will not be actually allowed access to that data. And if you are allowed access, you will not be able to use it the way you want it. So data, it is not about actually what problem you are trying to solve. There are other elements of actually data privacy, bridging the trust deficit, which is fundamentally very important when you are actually talking about building any kind of fintech solutions. But the definitions of how you bridge the trust deficit can actually vary from countries to countries and from individuals to individuals. But what is more essential, I think, is to either you start seeing that dialogue or looking forward with the respective countries or jurisdictions where you want to do that. And you either do it as, I don't think fintechs can do it on their own. So then it has to be an association, all the countries where they are, they need to actually then be seeding these conversations to see that data, how it can be globalized, but also the flip side is how data can also be protected. Yeah. In Europe, the data privacy is taken very, very high, and that's where probably those are the markets which fintechs are working here should also be looking at how do you work with restricted data.
No, but my point is again that if the data gets restricted, fintechs will stop being born because they are being born because they understand the data.
No, but the question is how much data, and you need a minimum data. I do agree to that, but data privacy is also important. And look at Europe. They still have very strict data privacy laws, but it's not that fintechs are not working in that environment.
I think just to add one point quickly on this, one of the major things is consent of the customer to give the data. That's very important. So if you look at the region here, all the regulators here also have become active. Even there is a law recently which came in Bahrain on personal data protection law. Even they are thriving on fintech waves they have created, but still these data provisions is important because ethical data collection is a very big challenge, and you are your own regulator in that. So that is why law has come to protect that.
Any questions? Do we have time?
We have time for one question.
We explain it all in science.
Is there any question? We can go ahead with one. All right. Now I got big round of applause for our amazing panelists. We strongly believe that if there are no questions, that means the presentation was flawless. There is no scope for any questions. So a round of applause again for all our panelists right here. Thank you so much.
If you like our videos and want more information about cryptocurrency and new ICO, please subscribe our YouTube channel and press the bell icon. Thank you.